Everyone to another episode of the Ol'Timers comic book show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. It is my favorite pod of the week with some of my favorite people ever. Step up, the professor. How's it
Johnny,
going?
how are you?
I am very well, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Tired, lost an hour of sleep, but hey,
Yeah, well, you get back in the fall, right?
yeah. But
Yeah, it's a long
that
time to
point,
wait. It's a long
yeah.
time to wait for that lion. All right, so Mad March continues, and this time around um we've gone for no theme whatsoever. That's how crazy we are. We've gone all over, and for the first time in ages, we've gone one Marvel book, one DC book, and one indie book.
Oh yeah,
That's impressive, isn't it?
it is.
Yeah.
Usually we spend a lot of time on the big two, and
Yeah.
every once in a while, we want to kind of take a left turn and go to. I mean, I don't know how indie you would call this book, but
Yeah,
what are you
that's
what are
true.
you gonna do?
I mean, how indie did you call Dark Horse Comics, right?
Well, Dark Horse was the third before Image was, right?
Yeah.
And then once Image became number three, then Dark Horse kind of fell off a little bit. But Dark Horse was good with all the licensed properties, right? So they
Yeah.
had Alien and Predator, and you
Mm-hmm.
know they
Yep.
they were big on that.
So yeah,
Not
it's
so much
massive.
anymore, but
Yeah, well, that's cool. So let's start off with your choice. And I think before we get to the book, I think there's a couple of things that we need to be aware of. First off, your book is where's that? There it is. This isn't your book, but it's the tie-in
no.
to Shadows of the Empire, which way back when in '96, this was arguably, if you count Split with the Mind's Eye or not, the first time Lucasfilm went out and did a new all canon storyline. The idea here is that the things that happen in this book happen in the Star Wars universe.
Mm-hmm.
Scary thoughts. Right, so we are actually looking at. Let me bring the book up. Stop that one. Everyone makes this look so easy. There we go. We are looking at the first issue of the comic book series. So this is Shadows of the Empire from Dark Horse Comics. We've taken this from the omnibus edition. Originally, the book was out in April '96. Go Collect have this as a 9.6. It's $75.
Really?
Yeah, a grade 9, at 38. eBay over here, you can get it for anywhere between £17 to £20. Remember, if you're using eBay or any bidding site or auction site, watch out for those grades, because I looked at one of the copies of the books that we're going to talk about later on, and the guy said near mint, and when I took a look at the photos, there was spine roll, there was staple wear, so just be aware. Yeah. Cool. Who's to blame? All right, for the book, it's written by John Paycheck Wagner, art by Killian Plunkett and John Nadal. P. Craig Russell is on inks. Carrie Potter, sorry, is on colours, and Dave Cooper is on letters. But this was your choice. I know we
Yes.
spend time in a galaxy far, far away over on No Prize. So, what was it about this book that made you think, "Ooh, let's
Well,
take it to the old times"?
let's shout out the beautiful covers by Hugh Fleming. Those just really, really reminiscent of the movie posters, and some of the few covers in the other issues were really, really kind of brought you into the storyline. So yeah, I was thinking about doing a Star Wars book, and I was like, you know what? We never talk about a lot of this old Dark Horse stuff. I think we
Yeah,
talked about one before. We talked about Dark Empire, right?
Dark Empire.
But this was back when it must have been in my late 20s or mid 20s, and it was 10 years after Jedi. We hadn't really gotten much of anything, and then they relaunched Kenner's toy line, right?
That's right, the Power of the Force figures. That's right. I
Yeah.
remember those. They were awful.
But hit the nostalgia spot right at the age I was, where I was working, I had my own disposable income, and I didn't have any of my old Star Wars figures anymore. So it really kind of hit me. And then it wasn't just me, apparently. It was the rest of everybody that was my age that loved Star Wars, because they took off, didn't they?
Doing huge.
And then all of a sudden, you start seeing more Star Wars stuff created for the fans. And this really was the first thing that we got that was, like you said, this was going to be canon. This was going to be those moments in between Empire and Jedi where you could see, not so much between Star Wars and Empire, right? Because Star Wars and Empire was like, okay, so the rebels were on the run and they went to Hoth. Here, there was these plot lines where Boba Fett had to get Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt, and Luke Skywalker had his hand cut off. And how did he learn how to use that? And bring on Jabba and Darth Vader looking for Luke. And now you throw in this Prince Shizor, and
I pronounce it Zizor. I don't know if I don't know.
we can argue about how to pronounce it, but I've always called him Shizor. This book really was it was really let's tie up these loose plot threads of how Jedi came from Empire, right? And it was just so rich. There was such a lot of plot lines, plot devices to kind of go in and play around with here, and introduce a couple of new characters. Hey, maybe we'll sell a whole bunch of action figures on this, because this is why they did it, because they introduced Dash Rendar. They had a new ship, the Outrider. They had Prince Shizor. You had Black Sun. You had Swoop Riders. You had Guri. You had a bunch of. you had new costumes for old characters. You had Chewbacca going under with the buzz cut and bounty hunter stuff. It was really visually just a new toy box for me that I just loved. And so I kind of wanted to revisit this and kind of see if it stood up to the test of time, of how fondly I kind of thought of it as in my memory. And this was, if you remember, this was before we got the enhanced editions of Star Wars. This was before we got the new trilogy of Phantom Menace, the prequels. This was before all that. So this was really canon before. And I actually was thinking, do we see Shizor in the Star Wars universe when we got new sequels? I was like, they could have thrown him in there.
Well, it's funny you mention this, because Black Sun gets a mention in the Solo movie.
They do.
They do. Absolutely do. As does the martial art Terry Cassie, which was a Star Wars Mortal Kombat type game that came out around this time. Yep. So Lucasfilm are trying to tie in all these different elements. And they say that the Heir to the Empire stuff isn't canon, but you've got the big cruisers. What you call it? I always call the indicators, but they're not the cruisers that pull people out of hyperspace.
Interdictors or something.
Interdictors, great. And you've got the idea of jumping into light speed into a planet and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of different nuances from the Zahn books that make their way into this new era of Star Wars movies.
Yep. They pick and choose. They pick and choose now. But this was when they officially said this was canon. But now you can see there's a lot that they kind of picked and chose of what they were going to keep, especially in the comics these days. If you're reading right now, they're in between Star Wars. They're in between Empire and Jedi and that universe. And there's a lot that they're kind of leaving out. And Crimson Dawn has pretty much taken the place of Black Sun, even though that they're similar organizations, right? They're both kind of questionably criminal, playing one against the other, out for themselves.
Well, Crimson Dawn, I can understand why they get probably more print space. Crimson Dawn's a Disney creation for a Disney movie, so inevitably it was going to get more love than Black Sun. But
The funny thing is they could have called it Black Sun, and I would have totally bought it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
crazy,
but
crazy.
this first issue here, this basically introduces all the players, starts those threads going. You've got
Hmm.
Boba Fett running into a bit of a problem getting Han to Jabba, which
Hmm.
of course they redid that just last year in the Crimson Hand or
Hmm.
Crimson Rain or whatever they called it, and they kind of did the same thing almost. Um, and then they have you have Wedge with Rogue Squadron.
Yep.
This introduction with Wedge and Rogue Squadron, they really played this up as the Rogue Squadron was really badass, and
Mm.
that actually spun out into a bunch of series of novels and comic books
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, there's a
So
lot. This fair enough. Now, if you're a Star Wars fan, now you can't turn Disney on without seeing some Star Wars material, and everyone thinks that's the heyday. For me, stuff like this, the Dark Horse stuff from the '90s, you
yep,
know, this was the thing that kept the fire going. This was the
yep,
thing that kept the force burning. Because without these, there's going to be no further interest.
yep.
You know.
Well, there was that 10-year gap from when we were all 12,
Mm,
and then all of a sudden now we're 22, and now we're starting to get more Star Wars stuff, and
mm,
now we're the target audience because we have money now, and now we
yeah.
can spend money and to get all this stuff, and you see it time and time again. But this book, um, in particular, it didn't really stand up. So
Yeah, yeah, you kind of.
I
Go
remember the book from Steve Perry was very good. This book, you said who's John Wagner? You said
Yeah, John Wagner. So
John.
this is the John Wagner that made his name on there on Judge Dredd. Did some Batman stuff,
Well,
and he's like paycheck this in all the way. Send it in
he
by mail.
he did. This book kind of suffered a little bit from not really focusing on Dash Rendar, where I kind of feel like the Shadows of the Empire, the novel, really
Hmm.
focused on Dash Rendar, and here he is a side character
Mm.
extraordinaire. Um, in fact, I don't even think he's in the first issue. Um,
No, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Absolutely, Professor. I read this first issue. I love this. I love the book by Steve Perry. I have it lying around somewhere,
yeah.
and the book is, considering it's a Star Wars book, it's mature in lots of ways. You
Hmm.
get you get Luke getting scared by the Force, by the idea of Darth, his dad, and there's this scene in the book where he's trying to use the Force to walk on a tightrope, and then he
Hmm.
gets so like scared he just runs across the tightrope without even thinking about it. You know, which hints at the powerfulness of the dark side of fear leads to darkness. So the idea of sex in the book, you know,
Yeah, with
Zazor,
Shizor and Leia, right?
yeah, with Guri is in there as the kind of like babe assassin type thing. Then of course there's the almost seduction of Princess Leia down the
Hmm.
line. Dash comes across in the book as a wannabe Han Solo because the
Yeah,
yeah when but the book does really well in kind of the novel does a great job of putting the pieces together. So how did Leia get a Bush outfit?
yeah.
How did the Bothans get the Death Star tapes, plans? All those sort of things happen in the book.
Yeah.
The comic book, on the other hand, takes it and extrapolates, and I'm not sure it extrapolates in a great way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the whole idea of Boba Fett being chased around the galaxy because he's got the universe's most prized possession in his cargo hold.
Yeah.
Really? Um, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff happens, and I remember reading the book, and Boba Fett's hardly in it. He's in probably 1/3 of a chapter.
Yeah. And this they actually make the Boba Fett's uh, journey to Tatooine is almost the focal point of the comic series,
Yeah.
and to the point where everything Vader's doing is kind of a subplot.
Mm.
Um, I think the Black Sun stuff is kind of prominent, but a
Mm.
lot of the stuff in the book is really filler.
Yeah. In the comic, yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
I love the artwork, the technical aspects of like
Yeah.
the the dashboards on the ships, and the
Slave One
ships look
there.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
the artwork and the space battles looks great.
The Falcon looks great in the later issues when they're
Yep.
flying through Coruscant.
Yeah, so like that stuff that stuff holds up. Some of the, you know, the story really it kind of didn't
Yeah,
hit well as much as the book did. So
yeah, agreed. I think the book does a better job of creating Zizor or whatever as a legitimate alternative bad guy,
yes,
because you're not going to have Luke come across Darth Vader in this book because it's part of canon, so therefore they can't meet again till Jedi.
yeah,
So Perry has to then create an alternative version of Vader, and he does that in Prince Izar, who's equally as dangerous for a different reason. And what makes me enjoy the book, maybe not the comic so much, or the idea of this, is that we've watched Rogue One. We know how the rebels aren't all peachy white clean,
hmm,
and this is the first time they kind of even hinted this back in the 90s, where Leia's willing to get into bed, figuratively, almost literally, with a criminal organization to help further the cause against the Empire.
yep,
And I think that's quite immature stuff. And that sort of elements, these elements aren't picked up in the comic book because the kind of the book's aimed at kids wanting to buy the toys. I get it.
yeah,
The art was wonky. I agree with you wholeheartedly. The starships, IG-88, there's bounty hunters, Boba Fett's helmet, all that looks great, absolutely great. But everybody else is just wonky. And when I think about some of the other kind of images that I've seen recently, I don't know if we've got a spy in the camps because we talked about this week, and then this popped up on my Twitter. Before we even discussed what we were doing, like, boom, this came up. I was like,
that's funny.
what? This is from a trading card series by, as you can see, the Hildebrandt brothers. And that's Guri and Prince Izor sat there. And you think to yourself, if that looked that good in the comic book, I'd be all over this like a rash, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's funny though. We did this happens to us all the time though. We're going to talk about something and then we start seeing it. So.
Yeah. Well, somebody. Let me see if I can. If you give me the tweet, just give me 2 seconds. I think 13th was nice enough to send me something. Where is it at? Yeah. So a day ago, comic book addicts at comic book at ADDT featured one of the books that we're going to do later, and I swear to God, we pick our books like a week in advance, so it gives us time to find the damn things. You know what I'm saying? So whoever's listening on, Alexa, if you're telling people what books we're going to pick, I'm not going to be happy.
This is going to show up.
Yeah,
it's going to show up in my feed tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, Star Wars: Shadow of the Empire, an ambitious. I mean, it was a multimedia event. There was books.
Yes.
There's a soundtrack by Joe McElroy about based on the book.
I think I had the soundtrack.
I
was in 2 feet with Shadows of the Empire.
Me too. Absolutely. Yeah. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. It gets a bit cheesy in some places, but that's Star Wars anyway, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you like Star Wars, find it, dig it out. I will say, as I said at the start, we've taken our copies from the Omnibus edition, which is kicking around. In the Omnibus, for $75, you get Shadow of the Empire the first miniseries. You get Mara Jade's Emperor Hand story, which is written by Timothy Zahn, the creator of Mara Jade. And then Steve Perry rocks up for Shadows of the Empire Evolution, which takes the things a little bit further. It depends how much you really love Star Wars.
I have a question for you.
You most certainly can fire away.
So Shadows of the Empire always seemed to me to be kind of a temperature gauge on fandom, right? Because fandom had kind of waned. and so they have the toy line come out, and then within a year you have the book and all this multimedia stuff. If this didn't go over well, do we ever get any more Star Wars movies? Do we ever get the prequels?
That's a really good question. I think what I agree with you that this is a temperature gauge, and then George Lucas then did the 3 specials.
Yes,
I think if those had gone down poorly, then we wouldn't have seen the prequels or sequels thereafter. And I'll tell you a funny story. As much as a Star Wars fan as I am, I went and saw New Hope again at the pictures for the new added footage. I went and saw The Empire Strikes Back at the pictures for the new footage. Didn't go see Jedi at the pictures.
Really?
No, I didn't go. In fact, even now I have my DVD set of Star Wars through Jedi. I bought it. It's got the original theatrical release and the remastered one. 9 times out of 10, unless the kids are there,
theatrical release.
Every time.
Yeah. I just don't even know where you can't even find that anymore. So I mean you have to find it, either download it online or something, but you can't go to the store and buy a DVD with the original theatrical release.
When it scrolls up, it doesn't even say New Hope, it just says Star Wars and then boof. It doesn't have episode 4 on it, nothing. It's just as it is, as it was. So I think by the time Jedi came around, I don't think there was that much more to add. But I think the added extra bit in Empire spoiled it for me. Where Luke's hanging underneath the Bespin, and you see Darth just walk towards it, and then bring me my shuttle, which is clearly dubbed in, and then you see like the shuttle leave Bespin to get to the Star Destroyer. I'm thinking to myself, could you not just fly underneath and get him then? The Force and all that. But could have, should have not thought it through. Just had 25 minutes onto your movie for no reason.
Hey, you know what? I totally bought that he was at Bespin, and then 5 minutes later was back at his Star Destroyer.
Yeah, it doesn't need explaining, does it?
I didn't need an explanation. I was 8.
Yeah, even now I'm like, I mean, I know I talk about time zones and stuff, but hey ho. Right, time for a break. We have a show. We talk a lot about it on TDC, not so much on here. But this is a new, it's not a new show, it's been around a while, but this is a new advert for the show. This is Freya's K-Pop Cosmos. If you like everything K-Pop, check it out. There you go, K-Pop Cosmos. It's a new timer for some old timers. Who'd have thought it?
Wow.
She was like, I'm going to do this advert. I was like, great. And then she shows us that. And she goes, what do you think of my ad? I was like, yeah, it needs more fishnets. But
all right, then.
Well, and on that note. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about 13th pick. 13th's not here. He's had to be called away to the JLA watchtower. Apparently, they're all out of Oreo cookies and the Martian Manta's gone nuts. So what are you going to do?
Can't have that.
You cannot have that. So this is his choice. And it is Flash, Volume 1, 3, 2, 4. Let me give you the stats on this. This is from July 83. Go Collect has the grade at 9 for this for $110. A grade 8 will cost you $50. I found it on eBay for £74. And that was for the newsstand version. So, you know, I also was very fine. It was a great. I did not look into it that much after that. So this is the Flash. So around this time, it will be written by Carrie Bates, art by the fantastic Carmine Infantino, inks by Dennis Jensen, Carl Gifford's on colours, Phil Felix is on letters. And Phil Felix, I feel, I don't know about you, Professor, but he did a good job on these letters because I swear to God, he might run fast, but he talks even faster. Reverse Flash never shuts up. What's that all about?
There's a lot of exposition in this issue and a lot of captions too. There's, you know, sometimes you just kind of want to let the art speak for itself. I don't really need the captions to tell me what's going on, but there's a ton of captions in this book.
And you think
but anyway,
it's Carmine Infantino, so it's not like the dude doesn't know what he's doing, right? He is an absolute legend in DC Comics, and spent time with Marvel, of course.
I would call him the premier Flash artist.
Agreed. All the traits are there, the angles, the squareness of jaws and hands and stuff. So basically the story is this. Barry Allen's getting married, not to Iris. She's been killed already. And the Reverse Flash decides that he's going to get in the act and try and kill another Flash bride. Remember, the Reverse Flash knows who Barry Allen is because he's from the future, and so on and so forth. At which point, as lo and behold, good old Barry's late for their wedding. Would you not believe it? But as it turns out, he's been kind of kidnapped, I guess, by the Reverse Flash, who decides to take him on a tour of the world, and so on. And then they chase each other around like an episode of the TV show, like whatever. And we get lots of talking.
Mm-hmm.
Barry hardly says a word throughout this book. And then the kicker at the end is pretty much as said on the cover, is that in an effort to save his wife-to-be, he inadvertently breaks the neck of the Reverse Flash. So therefore, Flash becomes a murderer. Dum, dum, dum. I know we say this a lot, but a book of its time.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think of how the Flash is now. I mean, in this book, you have Barry's parents at the wedding, so we have not retconned that yet. You have Iris, which I'm going to have a confession. This is the first time I ever read this issue was for this podcast today.
Likewise, I didn't even know who Fiona was. I was like, when did he get with? Where was Fiona? Right. To Iris.
I was always under the impression that Reverse Flash killed Iris and then Barry killed Reverse Flash immediately. But here it's like 4 years later. They even say it in the book that he's been away for 4 years. And I'm like, well, first of all, the DC universe would never be that old where they would let things go for 4 years, right?
Right.
And then he comes back, and now, I mean, Barry had moved on from Iris. I didn't know there was someone else after Iris. So
I did not know either. I thought he was into Zatanna at this time. Back in the Justice League book, him and Zatanna were having a kind of will they, won't they?
Yeah. So yeah, it was a little odd. I'm kind of surprised that no one has, like, Fiona has never like resurfaced post Crisis, has she?
I don't know. This is, as I said, I'm with you. This is the first time I've read this. Let's find out what happens.
Yeah. And I mean, they never used her in the show. You would kind of think that they would have introduced her just to kind of maybe even be a foil for Iris, you know? I thought it was interesting thinking about that. But I think the emotion still hit there where Barry doesn't show up for the wedding. and everybody's like, it's Barry, he'll be there. And then by the time, like 45 minutes later, she realizes he's not going to show up, says the wedding's off, and you can almost kind of feel the emotion in the pages that Carmine drew. But then on her way out, Reverse Flash is running at her to kill her, and then Barry intercepts him and kills him at the end. But you can see there was even a line where she said, I don't really know if I care whether or not I live or die.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that was a really powerful line of dialogue. And that kind of brought everything into the issue for me. I thought that was the line. It wasn't this. It wasn't the, oh my God, I accidentally killed Reverse Flash. It was the fact that she didn't care if he saved her or not. And at the end, that was really that was the emotional point for me.
It's an interesting pick from the 13th, because we talk about March Madness, and the last time we did a pod, it was sort of like the crazy aspect of the word madness.
Yeah.
Just doing a little bit of a search there. This character ends up having a mental breakdown after this point.
Really?
So the Mad March element is still in full play from this point of view. Heroes are defined by their villains, and I can't think of anybody who used to freak me out more than the Reverse Flash. Although logically, if you're the Reverse Flash, it should go really slow, not really fast. But that's a whole different kind of thing that I don't even want to get into. In fact, the Reverse Flash affects the Speed Force differently the way the Flash does, so it's explained in that way. I think this run of the Flash is probably some of the most underrated books you can get. It's one of those ones that you think, wow, Flash just runs fast, right?
Yeah.
But the talent that's on this book, they're in it for the long haul, and I think that really does really well throughout this book. Carmine Infantino, I agree with you, is the premier Flash artist. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, but he's never really quite the same after he leaves Flash, right? Because he goes off and does a couple of other things, but he doesn't have the quality.
I remember,
in my opinion.
Ironically, I remember him on a Star Wars comic.
Yeah, but even then, I thought the Star Wars comic the art was junk half the time.
It was the Luke Skywalker on the derelict ship thing, wasn't it?
I remember correctly.
So. Yeah. I do have a question. I wish 13th was here to answer this one. I don't understand why the Green Lantern Guardians are getting involved.
There must have been that's what I just kind of assumed there was an issue before that. Because, I mean, we start this issue and Barry and Reverse Flash are already fighting. So I kind of think it was, just a prior issue thing.
Yeah. So. I didn't think the Green Lantern Corps Guardians cared that much about anything else other than the Green Lantern Corps. I don't know.
It's actually drawn a little tall for a Guardian.
Yeah, maybe. Interesting. Of course, you see the ring a couple of times with the costume going in and out, which we've already seen in the new Flash trailer as well. So, and we've seen on the TV show. So it's nice. It's nice to see that. But yeah, I remember a Flash comic when I had as a kid, and he rang his mum and his dad to say, "Oh, I'm just checking to see if you're in. I'll pop round later." And they're like, "Okay." And like next panel, he's there because he's like, So we'll have to ask 13th when he comes back. When did they decide to retcon the death of his mum into the ongoingness of it all?
So they didn't, and I know the answer to that. They retconned the fact that Reverse Flash killed Barry's parents when Jeff Johns brought Barry back.
All right.
So it's not even that old. What is it? That was what, 15 years ago maybe?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
That Johns brought back Barry. And that was when they retconned that. The question really I had, it's like, I don't really think that that the Flash comic ever really recovered from that because Barry kills Reverse Flash. Then they had like a trial, right? And then they canceled the book. Right? They canceled the book, and then the next time you see Barry a couple of months later is in Crisis, and he dies.
Yeah.
So I mean, this book came out in 1983, and we get Crisis in 85, right?
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
84.
Yeah,
So
845, yeah.
so that's, I mean, that's the Flash comic is not long for this world by the time we're reading it here. So
Do you think that they just ran out of ideas for it? Or do you think they're just like
from what I remember, the Flash was not selling very well at all, which is why they can do things like kill the Reverse Flash because no one really cares. And that's when they killed Barry. And how long did Barry stay dead? Barry stayed dead for 20 years, didn't he?
It did. I thought it was a keeper. It should have been a keeper.
Yeah.
Deaths that should have lasted. Barry Allen was one of them.
Mhm.
Jason Todd's the other. Those are the two.
Yeah. Barry Allen was when they killed, because they killed Barry Allen off right when I first started reading comics. And to me, Wally West was always my Flash. But that lent the DC universe to me the feeling of legacy characters. That's why I love legacy characters so much at DC and can't friggin' stand them over Marvel, because Marvel never did them. It was a DC thing.
I remember the Wally West Flash book. It was great. It was really, really good. Yeah. Very good.
I started collecting that with issue 1. So Wally West was always my Flash. Mark Waid was on that book, and I thought it was very, very good.
Right, our third and final book is admittedly one of my favorite covers of all time. There we go. It's this peach of a book. This is Marvel Team Up number 82 from May 1979. Go collect, have this as a high grade at 9.6 at $95, grade 950. They don't have a record of anything below that. eBay, you can get this book. Someone said, "Oh, brand, it's near mint. It was £9." I looked; it wasn't anywhere near mint at all. But there's a huge range between a £5 to £15. So it depends on where you. It depends how you collect. Some people collect for the high grades, and I'm going to keep it and sell it and speculate and all that. Other people just buy it to read it. I think I have this in my collection, and I bought it to read it. I didn't pay more than £3 for it back in the day. I think. Where's it at? It's in that box down there somewhere. So this is the team up book is Spider-Man +1. And this is written by Chris Claremont, art by Sal Buscema and Steve Leialoha. Okay. Rick Parker's on letters and Ben Shawn is on colors. I absolutely love this book. There is not a bad thing you can say about this book that's going to turn me off this book. Even the dodgy colors halfway through the book, I don't care.
I'm going to say one bad thing about the book.
Go on then.
It ends on a cliffhanger. You're going to make me read up issue 83.
Oh, 83 is 83 is bonkers. You've got Shield in there. You've got more Black Widow. You got it's like a threesome going wrong. I tell you. So you start off, and straight away for me, you look at this book, and this book looks like a proper comic, an adult book, doesn't it? I mean, it looks serious from the get-go. Yep. It's Claremont, so you've got shed loads of writing to go through, but it works on this occasion. Thought bubbles. We miss thought bubbles in comics nowadays.
I do. I'm one of them.
I do. Yeah, me too. Lovely pacing of the page. This poor red-headed school teacher gets herself into trouble. She's going to get beaten up, then all of a sudden, all Spider-Man turns up in the speed of light, in the nick of time, as the song goes. Does everything all right until he trips on some snow, and before you know it, plain school teacher turns into Karate Gal. At which point Spider-Man recognizes who she is, but she's got memory blank. It's like a March Madness thing. She doesn't know who she is. So Spidey does what you'd expect to do: kidnap her.
Of course.
Why wouldn't you?
That's how we do it.
Takes her to a safe house. Where could Peter Parker find a safe house, in all fairness? The colours are a bit wonky. Yes, massively so. But then imagine my 8-year-old, 9-year-old self looking at this comic, and you see that picture there of someone putting out. I'm getting hot on the cover just thinking about it.
Yeah, there we go.
Which, and then there she goes. And from this point on, I am now hooked. The dynamic between the damsel in distress and Spider-Man punching all these responsibility buttons in the right way, brilliant. Absolutely love this. The art gets really crazy. A bit of John Byrne-esque there on the widow's face, I think.
Mhm.
But loads of action, loads of motion throughout the book. They're basically on the run. Eventually they get caught. Oh no, what happens? She decides to try and fight them off and does quite well. Then she gets shot. And what's going to happen next? Nick Fury shot Spider-Man. Oh my God.
He shot both of them.
Oh no. So, back in the day, I used to get these. I think I've told you before. Back in our newsagents, like our newsstands, I suppose you call them, you used to get these packs of comics, and you get like 3 Marvel comics together, right?
Yeah.
Pack. And you see what the first one was, and you see what the end one was, because they put them down covers like that. But the one in the middle was the one that you could never get.
Yeah, the mystery comic.
Yeah, it's like Shogun Warriors or something ridiculous like that. I picked up a pack of this, and my friend had this issue, and he wouldn't sell me it for anything.
Really?
No, he wouldn't. And then I went to the newsagents, and I saw it, and with this next issue next to it, I was like, yes!
Nice.
So I was like, win-win, winner, chicken dinner. But Sal Buscema, you can't go wrong with Sal. He is one of the Mr. Marvels of the 70s and early 80s, definitely. Steve Leialoha is fantastic on Spider-Woman. So he has the female form down really well. And I think the book just reads really, really well. I think it's pacey, it's fun. Who doesn't love a damsel in distress story?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
So I didn't love it as much as you did. I did think it was a great story. I was mad that it ended on the cliffhanger because I was like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is Black Widow an LMD in this?
No, I don't think
she's
she
not
is.
an LMD. That's because I was like, this is going to be that's why he killed her, because it's Shield and she must be a life model decoy. But I know I read the next issue. It's just been so long I can't really remember. I think Spidey spends all his time on his feet, which I know that you don't like.
Yeah, no.
But the rest of the story, I thought it was decent. I thought it was nice. I think they did Black Widow with amnesia a couple of times. This was the first time I think they've done that. I don't remember what her previous appearance was before she was in Marvel Team Up. So I know she's like coming in here and all of a sudden it's like, okay, she doesn't know who she is. That's part of the story because she was fine the last time we saw her. But it was a good book. I love seeing Nick Fury at the end because I love this version of Nick Fury. And it's the Marvel team ups were always hit or miss for me, depending on hero and the creative team. But you have Chris Claremont on this plus Sal Buscema. You can't really go wrong. It's a good artistic team.
Isn't Claremont do a lot of these? Because I remember he did the Captain.
Chris Claremont was a regular writer on Marvel Team Up. Yeah,
he did the Captain Britain Spider-Man team up. It was, I think that's issue 62, 63, something like that. And those are introduces puts him in Murder World. Arcade and Murder World.
Arcade. Yeah.
And I love that. I love that 2-parter as well. So
yeah, Chris Claremont wrote a lot of Marvel team ups.
I think there's something to be said that I think books like this work really well. You've got Marvel Team Up, which is Spider-Man plus another. You've got 2-in-1, which was The Thing plus another.
Yeah.
Which, to my recollection, didn't do as well. Over on the flip side, you had Brave and the Bold, which was Batman and another, and then you had DC Comics Presents, which was Superman plus another. And again, the DC Comics, we've talked a couple of times, a couple of issues of these. I think we did a Batgirl one and an Adam Strange one. And whilst they're a bit hawky in places, the Adam Strange one much better than the Batgirl one. Brave and the Bold was far better. I don't know what it is about Batman and Spider-Man that allow them to be so versatile with other characters.
Well, so if you compare them, right? So I mean, Batman was a good team up because he either you related with him or you didn't, and he was more of the detective, so you could go with like a detective Eagle story and basically bring any character and to go off him. Superman, I always wondered why Superman teamed up with anybody, because he's just powerful enough to just do whatever he wanted. So why would he need any help? With Spider-Man and the Thing, it was just the personalities. The Thing for the long time was such the face of Marvel. And it was great to see him with just teaming up with anybody. And the stories, it was the stories that were a little questionable in the 2-in-1s. Like I said, these team ups were almost, I want to say, it was almost like a tryout book. Like they would put the new writers or new artists or whatever on the book just to see how they did.
I don't know if this falls within our remit actually, but I actually like Ben Grimm on the Avengers better than I like him on the Fantastic Four. Because I think in the Avengers, he gets to interact with lots of different characters. It's not just, Johnny Storm playing tricks on him. It's not Alicia hanging on his every word and stuff, and him blaming Stretcho for still being a monster. He feels more. He seems more at peace with himself when he's around the Avengers.
Yeah. I mean, I like it because he interacts with different characters, but he's the heart of the Fantastic Four. He's just they're not the same without him.
Yeah.
Even though She-Hulk did a good job when she was filling in, but that was because John Byrne was a great writer and artist on that book. But the Thing belongs in the Fantastic Four. He's supposed to be there.
Black Widow. She's had a bit of a romantic history, hasn't she? Talk about Mad Men. She's been a girlfriend of Peter Parker or Spider-Man, Daredevil, Hawkeye, and that's the one that everyone seems to focus on when it comes to thanks to the MCU. Yeah. Cap America for a while in the Avengers when she was chairperson for a bit. The girl gets around.
Yeah.
In a nice way. Don't know.
And then, of course, do you want to count the MCU relationship she had with Banner? The Hulk. That was thrown together in that.
Yeah. That's probably the worst part of Age of Ultron, to be honest, but never mind. No, so I think one of the reasons we love doing this show is because we do have that sense of nostalgia over these books. You said at the start, we looked at Shadows of the Empire because we love the idea of, we love the book, we love the music, we love the whole experience of it all. Did the comic hold up? And the answer you said was not particularly well. For me, going back and looking at this book, I still feel exactly the same way reading this book as I did when I first got it. So for me, this book holds up.
Yeah, some of these books hold up. I mean, I think the whole idea, or I think Shadows of the Empire, I think the comic part of it didn't really stand up because I think I loved it at the time because it was new. It was new stuff. You can imagine You can imagine going 10 years without any new Batman stuff. If something comes out, you're all over it, right?
Yeah.
So that for me was I was insatiable. Anything that came out with Star Wars, I was all over. It didn't matter what it was. That's why they could get away with putting out a soundtrack to a book.
Yeah. I listened to that earlier while I was doing my notes for the show. In the Shadows soundtrack, there's two pieces of John Williams music. First, the Star Wars theme. Second is when Han Solo's getting frozen in carbonite, part of Princess Leia's dream. After that, it's all new stuff. And I'm listening to it, I'm thinking,
Well, it's not John Williams. It's
What? Yeah, it doesn't have the same, I suppose, resonance. But no, Old-Timers is there to celebrate the books of yesteryear that we love so much, and be that Shadows or whether it be a team-up book or whatever. So I've absolutely totally enjoyed looking at that one. In fact, I've enjoyed it so much, I'm trying to work out where number 83 is right now, so I can go and read it after I finish the pod.
I have Marvel Unlimited, so I can just pull it up on my phone and read it if I want to.
Whatever. See that? Whatever. Okay, cool. All right, there you go. 3 up, 3 down. As you'd expect, a little bit shorter, thanks to the no perambulance of the 13.
We're 13 minutes early.
Yeah, not really. I'll tell you what, this makes up for no prize yesterday, doesn't it?
Oh, that's true. Just take the extra 10 minutes and watch No Price.
Yeah, do that,
Yeah.
but not now. Wait till after. Yeah.
After.
Cool. All right, Professor, thank you so much for spending the time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Johnny.
You're more than welcome. And of course, don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Professor.
Including No Prize Podcast, all about the Marvel Comics, the Disney Plus, and the MCU.
And of course, you saw the trailer for it earlier, which is K-Pop Cosmos. Freddie, if you like your K-pop or you want to try something new, go and have a listen. Freya is an expert. She's fantastic. And in case you missed it, there is a special episode of the Old-Timers comic book show out there now. Features an interview with DC mainstay Paul Kupperberg. And Paul was kind enough to retweet the picture of the baseball game that we discussed on the show.
What a fun guy.
Well, it was clever. Absolutely brilliant. So if you want to check that out, by all means, feel free to follow us on Twitter. The links are there as we speak. All right. You can find us dead easy. Okay, cool.
All right.
Look at that. It's like I'm a professional. I know what I'm doing. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Johnny.
As for everybody else, I've been Johnny the Machine Hughes. Adios.